in the last minute? Very well. Thank you, Bernie, for hitting the recording. If no comments from meetings, do we have a motion to accept?
I make the motion.
Peggy, you second? Anyone care to, or all in favor? Aye.
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 I think it froze up for a second on me, but we'll assume that's yes. All right. Let's go ahead and let's see, Bernie, if you could perhaps just also help to call on people if I drop out for a minute, because again, my Wi-Fi is going to be bad for a little bit, and then it should be very good. Why don't we go ahead and why don't we start with Louise? If you have, or sorry, Rick, how much time do you have? Like half an hour or 15 minutes, or how much time do you have?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I have some time right now, so don't worry about me.
Rick, it's Louise. If you need to go first, please do.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
What time do you
Okay.
need to- Go ahead, Louise. Sorry.
Okay. So, once again, we had a power surge, and people were locked out of the building. So we need to either get the generators ASAP, or perhaps if we could give everyone who's a head of household a key to the door so we can at least access the building. This has happened numerous times now already with the fact that we couldn't get in. I know I was told someone in building 33 came home from work at 4:30 in the morning and was locked out, could not get into his apartment.
Is power surge being something different than loss of power? Is there? I mean, can we get a surge? Would a surge protector provide protection on this, or is a surge protector not enough?
I don't personally, I don't know, but I don't think it's enough because we continuously have this problem. And I understand if there's not money for generators. However, we need to do something so people are not locked out on a, semi-regular basis.
I just want to respond to one thing. Tonight, we're going to decide, we got several proposals finally for generators, and we're going to make a decision on which one we're going to go tonight. But it still takes several weeks for them to get the generators, but it's going to be done as quickly as possible.
I'm confused though. Was it associated with a power outage, or was it a power surge? It's dirty power that we're getting delivered.
Yeah, this goes back,
No, it's what they call it. It's what they call it, Bernie.
I
Yeah,
know, it's
this
funny
goes
when you
back to
say
the-
that.
so you've heard me
Great.
talk about this before. This is Rick. This goes back to this problem that we've identified where it's scrambled the doors. It's created some problem with appliances over time. And quite honestly, we don't know what causes it. But contractors have noted it, and of course we noted it because these types of things happen. And I don't really know what, if anything, we can do about it because it's a generation or not a generation, but a delivery problem from the utility itself. So honestly, I'm at a loss as to how to deal with it, and I'm not sure that the generator is going to. That's not going to solve the problem, I don't think, because it's not a power loss issue. It's a, as you call it, Peggy, a dirty power or power surge issue. It's not like the power is out and that's why the door isn't working. It's because the system itself got scrambled by a surge in power or a disruption in one of the phases of the power coming in.
But if at all possible, then again, hopefully we'll get the generator side, which handles our loss of power issue. But let's see if we can't get a pricing under a surge protection also. I mean, it sometimes it's the generator guys do the same thing. There's other people who do that. And let's see what a surge protection system, if even feasible, would cost. I mean, it should be a lot less than a generator. But that might be the other problem we got to deal with.
Yeah, this particular situation happened right when we had the thunderstorm and lightning. That's what it blew it out.
Do we know of any
Yes, that's
other
right.
electronics? Do we know of any other electronics that got blown out? And does it reset, or do we have to do repairs? I mean, these are claims that we could make if it's a power surge, we can make a claim against Eversource.
No,
But they'll never go anywhere.
we had to actually have pieces replaced because it blew it completely out. Yeah, so that's why when the system got scrambled, it kicks out and nobody can use the fob system.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting that if we're not going to have a solution soon, then maybe on a temporary basis, we should think about giving people a key to the door so they can at least access the building. That, that's something the board has to discuss and think about, but it seems like the least expensive solution for now.
Hi, it's Anne. How are you, Louise?
Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm good. And hi, everybody.
Hey,
I'm just jumping in here. So I'm hearing about the key fob, and the only question and comment that I have is I hear what you're saying, that the key fobs and not gaining entry, and trying to find a workaround. The solution with the key, my concerns then become keys can be given out to other people. The key fob system is a means of security that we can track ins and outs and matching with the camera system too, in terms of security. So that's one other just point I wanted to make, not saying that it's the solution, but maybe working with Silent Watchmen to figure out if there's a longer term battery backup or some other way that we can, like you said, another system.
Yeah, to Ann's point, the system does have a battery backup on it. In this last instance, it was a case of damage to the system as opposed to loss of power. And I think Ann's right. The decision to hand out keys has to be weighed against security measures and keeping track of those keys and how we deal with all of that. So I think it's something to ponder. But I think the best place to start is to go back to Silent Watchmen. They're well aware of this problem because they fixed it numerous times, and see if between them and or the utility we can come up with a solution to the problem, as Scott suggests, a surge protector or something that might solve the problem other than handing out keys. In other words, how can we make the system work as designed rather than try a workaround to the system?
No, I totally agree. It's just that, it's a frequent thing. That's all I'm saying. It happens frequently and we can't seem to find a solution.
I know.
Louise, one question that I have, are there people per building that become sort of like, in the past, how you have handed out flyers, and I was wondering if per building, because it impacts the 4 buildings and sometimes only 1 or 2, usually not all 4 at the same time. Is there somebody that maybe there's a point of contact that on site, that there's somebody that, well, the problem becomes like, the 1, 2, 3, 4 a.m. hours if somebody works.
I don't see that happening.
Because usually this is just a short-term thing. It's not usually a long-term issue. So it's just a matter of getting over the hump. Maybe, within 24 hours, we try to get up and running unless there's a big storm or something. But all right, I'm going to ponder this a little bit.
I think that Silent Watchman also offers a small UPS system that can protect its, the fire alarms, and maybe this building system would be able to fit in that capacity as well as a surge protector for it.
Yeah, we have the UPS system already.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah. It's the surge that knocks the system out that's the problem, rather than the battery backup issue.
Yeah, and lightning, you can't really do much about it. I mean, just unless you really get some heavy duty surge protector, joint protectors on the feed, on the electrical feed that's coming into it. Okay.
Is there some way I can ask a question? Can I interject? This is Mark DeRollo. I live in building 33.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, I'm waiting for the moderator to give me permission to speak.
Go ahead. I don't think he's on right now.
Okay. The gentleman in question that had that problem at 4:30 in the morning is across the hall from me. His name is Rod Ford. I met with him in the parking lot, and he asked me, he said, because he's a relatively new tenant, he said, are there frequent problems, he said, with the key fob system? I said, well, catch as catch can. I said, sometimes yes, sometimes no. He said, well, what are we supposed to do? I had to call management at 4:30 in the morning because he works the night shift. So I said to him, look, I introduced myself. I'm your neighbor across the hall. I said, next time, just ring my apartment, or I gave my cell number. I said, just call me and I'll let you in. And he said, I don't want to do that at 4:30. I said, look, I'll go right back to sleep, so don't worry about it. I think that's what we've been trying to do here as a community, is trying to help one another in moments of crisis. I mean, that's what community is all about. But that aside, I just want to make a mention about this surge protector issue. I'm in technology, and most UPCs do have surge protection built into them, and in addition to power backup. Now, whether or not your PC does or not, it would be an anomaly if it didn't. And it concerns me if the surge protector is what's causing an issue. It's got to be a pretty big surge to get past a UPC system with the surge protector built in. And again, I doubt very much yours doesn't have it, but I can't say for sure without looking at it. But yeah, if that's the issue where we're having surges that are knocking out the system, maybe we just need a beefier surge protector. And I think the generators would be the best solution. I was all in favor for the keys, but Ann brought up a very good point. And as she was saying it, I was reiterating in my head myself. I said, wait a minute, security, giving out keys, it's going to be a nightmare to administer the management here. So I just wanted to mention that about the UPC, and also the fact that we deal with one another on a neighbor-to-neighbor basis to help one another out.
Thanks, Mark.
We can't be the only complex. We can't be the only complex that has this problem in the world. There's got to be an engineering solution to this.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think the place to start to solve the problem is to go back to Silent Watchman and say, listen, this keeps happening. We need a solution. Can you come up with one for us, or propose one for us, and see where they take it?
Just an FYI, I'm going to send a message as everybody's typing, so we're on it.
Okay, so is that how we're leaving it? You guys are going to approach Silent Watchman?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to move on? Would anybody else have, any of the tenants have further comments? Louise, are you done?
I just have a couple more things. I'm wondering about the trash recycle problem. We're getting rodents now. I don't know if it's I know Amy's been on top of this. Amy and Ann have been on top of everything, as well as Gunnar. We keep getting rodents because people are, putting garbage in the recycle bin. The recycle bin's not being picked up. I don't know if it's not being picked up often enough, or people are using it for garbage and recycling. But we're getting rodents outside, so it won't be long before they're inside.
Can I say
Sure.
something to that?
Sure.
Okay, or my 10 cents worth. I live in building 33, which most of you probably know is right by the water there, and we're getting rodents down here too. The recycling was not picked up last week at all. I don't know what happened. I think it was City Carting's fault. Amy will speak to that in a minute, I'm sure. But I'm really concerned because I was out yesterday just changing some light bulbs on my car, turn signal bulbs that burned out, and I watched a woman walk right. I myself put 2 signs I bought and paid for and mounted 2 recycling signs, bright green and white recycling signs on recycling dumpsters. There's no trash, just recycling, 2 of them. And I watched this woman walk up and just throw her garbage right in there. Just throw it in. And I started to say something to her. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." And she just pretended like she didn't hear me and she walked away. So, and that segues into the second problem that we have here, which I think Amy might want to speak to also about. I understand, it's my understanding that the camera system here, the recording system is analog. And that's a big problem because even if Amy or anybody else wants to go back on the camera and look through the footage to see who the offenders are, so if you maybe find them or whatever you're going to do, that takes hours. From my understanding, it takes hours to go through the tape to get to the spot where you need to see what you need to see. And again, with my technology background, I'm just surprised that we haven't upgraded the camera system so that the main control unit is digital instead of analog, which would make Amy's job, I'm sure, a lot easier. She could just go right to the date and look through that one day instead of having to go through 4 days to try and finally get to the point in time where she can see what needs to be seen. So a lot of the problem here is because of lack of enforcement, and I'm not blaming management on that because in order to have enforcement, you have to have the right tools to enforce the rules. And how do you enforce multiple problems like this when it takes the manager 4 hours to get through tape to find out who the offender is? It's ineffective management, really. It's inefficient. So, again, we try to do what we try to do here in the community. We try to talk to people when we see them putting their garbage, try to correct the issue with one another. Some people are more receptive, some aren't. But I think the camera surveillance system is another issue that should be put on the table at some point and discussed, because that will go a long way with enforcement of policy, I think.
I can address some of that. This is Rick. I can access the camera system on my phone, on my desktop, and I can manipulate it to a particular date and time. So I don't think the system is set up the way you're describing, because I can do what you're suggesting.
Okay, good.
So
Great.
I think the solution to the problem is that if someone does that and you see that, if you could let us know so that we can go back and take a look, then we can actually do some enforcement. And the enforcement is what usually helps to curtail the problem. So if you know, if anyone sees that type of behavior, if you don't need to tell us even who you are or who they are, if you just tell us the date and time, we can look at it and try to figure out who the tenant is and enforce the issue.
I'm just a little confused by that, Rick, because according to one of the managers I spoke with here, she told me herself that she has to go through hours and hours of tape to get to the point where she has to view something. Now, maybe she's accessing the system from a different portal that doesn't allow the immediate access that you have, but I'm getting 2 different conflicting stories both from Westmount staff. So I don't know what to make of that.
I'll talk with them, make sure that they know how to jump around the system quickly.
I think that would really help them in terms of doing their job more efficiently, because that's the name of the game, efficiency, I guess.
I think the helpful component is just saying that somebody over the weekend threw away garbage. That becomes the cumbersome part. So if we have, you know what, I went out there around 10 in the morning, and then when I went out again around 2, now at least we have an isolated time that we can sift through, rather than the totality of the weekend that we would then need to sift through. So having approximate time frames or dates, that's the component that would help us with sifting through information.
Yeah, that's a new take on, or an added take on Neighborhood Watch, and I think it's a great idea. And I will talk to Amy in person tomorrow, because I know the person who did it.
Okay.
I hate to rat people out, but people, if they're not following the rules, then they deserve, like, in my opinion, they deserve what they get.
Correct. Also, just making a note of it on the city, I have a call out to them already. It just seems that we get 2 pickups for the recycle throughout the week. We might increase it. We're going to get a bid on it, as well as try to see if we could get a larger container. We noticed that the bulk of it is coming on the weekend. So they do a clear out on Friday, and then the weekend it's overpacked. So everybody's cleaning out their houses or doing whatever they're doing over the weekend. And that's what's combating the the problem of its overflow. Over there.
Absolutely. I totally agree, Amy. That's what happens. It's empty on Friday, and then by Saturday night or Sunday morning, it's overflowing again.
Mhm.
And again,
Exactly.
it's a challenge with the space that we have to do a larger size container. And then
Right.
those that
right.
are lifting versus side, if we, which slide on the side. So it's a spatial thing as well.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Definitely. It's a
Can I
challenge.
interrupt for a minute, please? Michael? When I lost my internet service, somehow you show up as host. On the top of the screen, it should say people in the waiting room, and David should be there. If you click on it, you can invite him into the meeting. Somehow I can't do that any longer.
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
see that on your screen?
I do. Yeah, somehow I'm listed as host, so.
Okay, so just let
remember-
Michael, just
There's a
let
few other
David come in.
people- There's a few other people here too, Bernie, Miranda, Emma, Nicole, and a phone number. Want me to do the same with them?
Yes,
Hey, David.
thank you.
Thank you, Bernie.
I'm late, everyone.
All right. Are we all here?
We are?
Okay,
Is
so we move on
Is
to the
Scott
next.
back?
No, he hasn't come back.
I'm listening in. I'm on cellular coverage and I'm in the car, so I'm just gonna be on mute. If somebody else can run, that'd be better.
Bernie, do you want to moderate and invite people to speak?
Yeah, obviously somehow when I lost my connection, Michael shows up as host, so I can't. I could moderate, yes. There's somebody that just joined, Emma. Could you identify yourself, where you're from, who you are? No, okay.
She just dropped off.
Okay, does anyone else have any further comments?
Jim
For
Wesley.
tenants? Or,
Yeah,
from
the tenants. Jim Westlake.
I have one last comment, and I'm probably not going to be too popular for saying this, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed. Again, this is Mark DeRollo. I'm in 33-124. A couple of tenants and I were talking, and question came up is, does the board ever take a tour of the property? And in the 30 plus years I've been here, I don't recall seeing the board ever taking a tour of the property. I understand at Canaan Parish, they take regular tours. The board over there takes regular tours of the property. And so they can have boots on the ground and they can see exactly what's right, what's wrong firsthand. And I just think that would be helpful if that's not being done. I don't know if it's being done here or not. I just said, I haven't seen any board members here ever walking around, but I think it would be really helpful if at least once a month, the board members could take a little time out of their schedule just to take a walk through the property and see what they're representing.
This is Tim Welch. I'll do that if just schedule it. I schedule it through Amy or whoever.
Will do. No problem.
Thank you. That's the only thing I had to add.
Okay, if there's no other comments from the public.
Bernie,
Yes,
Jim
James.
Westlake. It's Jim Westlake.
Yes, Jim.
I did speak with you personally directly, but is there anything new on a schedule or if there possibly a deferment on the doors for the water heaters?
That's today.
Yes, we have another contractor that sent the proposal. It's going to be considered tonight. And it still will take a while, but it should be a lot quicker now. We kind of know where we're going with it.
Okay, thank you.
just have a question for Ann. Ann, I understand now you've taken over being in charge of the parking situation. Is that right?
In charge, I am a team member of the project. So
Okay.
so we are all working together. What I was doing today actually was walking through the parking lot with the plans that we have, just verifying the locations and the numbers. We're going through what the current assignment is, And one of the suggestions during the town hall meetings was rather than have spots number 1 through 124 was to actually assign a unit to the spots, because there's pretty much one spot per unit. Rather than having spot number 39, we could have that be spot number 4C. So we're playing with a couple different ideas, and that's where we are. And then it will go into re-registering, lining and striping, and so on and so forth. But right now, sorry, go ahead, Bernie.
Yeah, I just want to report that we've done this a number of times since we're here. Down at Millport, we don't necessarily have units that line up with each apartment.
No,
They have been kind of scattered, and some people are using now visitor parking, which we
right,
didn't have at one time. We generally have one spot per person, but in Millport, they don't always line up with the units. The
right.
case may be different up in Millport 1 and 2, but we can't base it that way because some people already have spots that for various reasons are convenient. We can't take those spots away, but we can still assign spots like we did in the past.
Yeah, so we realized whether we do nothing or whether we do something, we're going to be unpopular somehow. But at some point, we just want to make the right decision of the one that makes the most sense. And when we have somebody that is moving, even with internally from Millport Phase 2 and down to Mill, and they have their parking spot more towards Millport Phase 2, wouldn't it make more sense that if there was a vacant spot down on the Mill side that they can move to, because that spot is assigned to a unit?
Sure.
So Millport Phase 1, there isn't enough spots between the two buildings. We would have to go more towards the Mill side. So again, it's a little bit in flux and in the planning stages, but that's where we are currently.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because we continue to have issues with people parking right in front of the no parking
Yeah.
signs.
And there's no numbers. The numbers have long ago faded. The lines are faded at best. So we recognize that, and it's only going to get more difficult as fall and winter and so on and so forth. So we'd really like to tackle this in the next, several weeks and get it all done and resolved.
Yeah, we will need to do paving before we put the stripes down. Otherwise, it doesn't pay to stripe it and then have to restripe it after the paving is complete.
Right. We could simply do at least numbering at the very least in-house with some stencils and spray paint. But, that brings us to another question and something that we can talk about maybe a little bit later.
I'll be glad to meet with you and to further discuss it.
Of course.
I'm done. Oh, I should say one more thing. The usual noise issue. People are ready to come to blows over the noise issue. So I don't know if it's long-term or what the plan is, but it's getting pretty ugly in terms of the noise. And I think it's affecting relationships between neighbors. I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just bringing it to your attention once again.
Yeah, thank you. It's an ongoing issue that we just have to keep addressing as it comes up. It's, the physical attributes of the building, we obviously can't change as they relate to noise. The only thing we can try to do is change behavior.
All right.
I think there's nothing to change, but it's worth a try. But this is Mark Earl again. I was looking at the apartments over in Darien, the Royal, which is 55 and up. And one of the first questions I asked them, I said, how is the sound level? How well insulated is the building? And the gal said, well, we had a problem, but we did a sound mitigation, some kind of intermediation. They doubled the walls or did something to the heat wrong. I personally think that a better solution, and maybe a cheaper one, because we have these open floor plans here, basically you're walking around in a box. And there's floors that, I don't know if it was lack of thicker plywood or whatever, but you just, everything echoes. And I put carpets down throughout my apartment, in my hallways, even in my kitchen, my bathroom, just so it would break up some of the noise. I think carpeting, and I hear a lot less noise as a result of it. It insulates me as well from the neighbor's noise. I think carpets would go a long way, at least in the major areas of an apartment, to help mitigate some of the noise. I think that would be one of the cheapest possible solutions. And that's just my.
Okay, any of the candidates have anything else?
This is Wendy. I had one thing to talk about, but I will talk about that after this other one because it sort of relates to the parking issue in Mill. Because it sounded like you were wanting to identify a parking space with the exact apartment, and I thought Bernie at one time was kind of nervous about that because that indicates who's not in their apartment. And then also recently there have been apartments that have just been filled, and like someone may need a handicap space, and that has been, I think, finally resolved. But someone who goes to a certain apartment may need that handicap spot or not. And by limiting it to exactly the apartment and the space, I'm just thinking is probably not the best. So that's my thought on that one. But the thing I've brought this up, this is my next thing because the door thing is sort of answered, is my concern. It's been for years that I've kind of had issues with the sprinkler system here. And last night, well, I've been suspecting that there's been water. I'm at 41 6D, so I'm the bottom of the hill and a block away from the nearest irrigation system. And water seems to be going into the storm drain early in the morning on Sunday mornings, Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings, and Friday mornings. And for a number of years, the water company has sent out, and they did this last week, I believe, or the week before, and they also did it at the beginning of the irrigation system, that there's, it was a flyer that sent out, so lots of people throw flyers away, but it's a mandatory maximum twice weekly sprinkler irrigation system. And it's been like that since the spring, and it was like that last year and probably the year before. But all of our address numbers are odd numbers, and the water only days are on Saturday and Tuesday. And I'm not sure, but just because I wake up, or like at 7 in the morning, I can tell that water has gone into the storm drain immediately in front of my apartment. And early this morning, I was up, and at there's a geyser that is about 6 feet high that hits the curb and then the driveway right next to building 57, which is where the box for the parking yellow box. So that's hit by one sprinkler, and the utility boxes that are on that little spit of land are also hit, so it's not really doing anything. And then the 6-foot geyser, and then there is by the walkway into 57 at the curb, there's it's set into the grass, but there is a pipe that was just percolating water into the driveway. And so the water is on possibly 4 days a week for probably 15 minutes. And most of the water in that particular section is going into the storm drain. So I know there's a drought issue in Norwalk, And, we're paying to have water processed. And then I guess Building 57 or the management company is probably getting a bill for the water, and a lot of, it's just gallons and gallons of it going down.
Wendy,
So I'm not,
would you mind helping us with identifying which specific sprinkler heads you're speaking of, maybe tomorrow with Amy?
Yes, please. This way I could walk with her.
So we can even like spray
Okay.
paint around it to say, this is what we need to do. And then we're noting the flyer
Yeah,
and our need to maybe amend when our sprinklers are going off.
And
I gave it
Aqualon was
last,
scheduled-
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say Aqualon was scheduled for this week, I think yesterday and today. I know they blew us off on Monday, I think it was. Did they show up today, Amy?
Yeah, they were there. They were here today. We have them. No, they actually weren't here. That was the other company. I'm so sorry. Love my home love my lawn or something.
Right. So
Yeah, they were here. They were actually here.
Aqualon is the sprinkler company, and they're scheduled this week to do a service. And those, like the geyser is probably a popped head. Those are the things that they would fix on as part of our
Okay.
maintenance work with them. So if
But
you
you
could,
could show me that.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you
it-
can let Amy know, then we can direct them right to it and get it fixed right away.
Yeah, if I can't, because tomorrow morning, if I can't meet up with her, but last September, I gave a map, and I can redo the map and put it in the rent box to show where the sprinkler heads are that I noticed last night. So if that works, but I can tuck something in. But I gave it to Gregory last September, and the irrigation wasn't shut off until November. So nothing really happened except more water. So hopefully they'll fix it. And I really don't know about the other parts of the property. I do know, it's just this morning, I did specifically see exactly what time stuff happened. So, maybe on the surveillance there would be other recordings, but I'm thinking the water from the system is probably turning on sometime around 1 or 2 in the morning. And I've seen water coming down, not as much, but coming down from 59 and 61 on different nights or something. But I'm pretty sure that water is draining in front of 6D.
I'm pretty sure
4
you and Amy can clear it up once you get
Okay.
to talk to her, Wendy.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
But I'll definitely put in the rent box, I'll put a map there if I don't get to talk to her tomorrow, but I'll try to talk to her and show her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then there's one more thing is, I don't know if it's been
You have
pointed
2
out to
minutes to
people.
tell us what it is. 2 minutes.
I have less. There is a dead tree at the top or on the curve going up to 59 and 61. And it's it's on the side by the condominiums just west of us. The condominiums are off of Lakeview. So it's a tree without leaves. So I don't, it's just a good heads up to know or take a look at that.
Okay, thank you.
That's the end of my 2 minutes. There you go, Bernie.
Thank you.
Give them back to
I'm
you.
good to it.
Okay, if there are no other tenant comments, we should have management give us their reports.
All right, this is Rick. I'll start in quickly. I submitted the various reports. I'll start with the financials, basically the same story as the past few months. We've turned over all of the units at this point that were vacant. And so we, spent some money doing that. And otherwise, we're relatively on budget with all of our other line items in there. And we should start to see an improvement on the financials because Amy and Anna have done a great job getting units leased up to where we now have only 2 vacancies, as a result of move outs more than anything else. So I anticipate going forward to see better income numbers, lower vacancy numbers, better bottom line. But there are no surprises there, nothing that were unanticipated expenses. And the cash position still remains, fairly strong. So I would say overall, we're still in a very good financial position. We have slowed down some of the expenditures just to make sure that we didn't get ourselves into any sort of cash flow problem here. But as the units are filling back up, I'm feeling more comfortable with being more liberal with some of the spending on things like the power washing. That was something that we delayed because it's not an inexpensive project. But we're going to put that back on the schedule now that we've got the units leased up and got those income coming in that we didn't have previously. So with that, I'm open for any questions you might have on the financials.
Yes, Rick, I have 2 questions. Number one, the vacancies. Can you
Yeah.
identify where they are and the unit size? Do we have 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms? What are they?
There are 2 vacants. Amy, I don't have it in front of me. Can you tell them
Yeah.
which 2 are vacant?
Yeah, right now we have 4C, apartment 4C in the Mills. And then I have in phase 1, I have apartment 111. And we're working on 4C right now. And we're waiting for Absolute to come in and fix the furnace system there in 111.
Yeah, now 111, is that a 1-bedroom unit?
That is a 1-bedroom unit.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
4C is a 2-bedroom.
Great. The other question I have, in the accounts receivable, there was some indication, so we adjusted with Boston Post. Does that mean that the new entry hasn't put in there, so it's not up to date in those cases?
Yeah, so what I have to sit with Boston Post to go through it for the numbers, because whatever numbers were in the system previously are not generating properly on the paperwork. So they have to do it with me, and that's how it works. We have to go through it step by step and put the numbers in because it's populating not the right way.
So it may be that they're not necessary, that's how much is owed.
Yeah, exactly. The monies that are there for those people, I actually have their checks.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, so those are all up to date. Those pretty much are up to date. Those people, those new move-ins, we don't have any problems with those.
I gotta say, it looks pretty good considering that there are a few people who only had problems that still do. And that's trying to be resolved, so I think that's quite good.
Yeah, we've been directing, Anna and I have been working on it, directing them to get assistance from DSS, from persons to persons, as well as from community action. So
Great.
we've been backing them up and sending them over and speaking on their behalf and sending whatever documents, even with United CT, they're coming back to us now, asking for up-to-date information, because I guess they're reopening cases and looking at things that was sitting in the wind.
Great.
Yeah, one as recently as today.
Yep.
The accounts receivable I saw had reports for the Mill Apartments and Millport Phase 1. Was Phase 2 incorporated into Phase 1, or was that report not there? Came to about 50 some odd thousand bucks.
I thought I sent everything. If I didn't, I apologize.
Oh,
Listen, I could have misread it too. So
All right, let me re-review that. I do much better with 2 screens, even better with 3.
No, it was only for two of the.
My apologies.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so then we submitted Amy's report. I don't think you need to necessarily read it line for line. Amy, maybe just pick out some highlights if you want, or if anybody has any specific questions on some of the items in the report. Again, we're trying to line up some projects like the power washing and other, things of that nature. But I think the big news for the month is the reduction in vacancy. That's an enormous heavy lift that they pulled off, and I think it's going to do wonders for the property going forward financially.
Great
Yeah.
result.
I would like to speak for the tenants to say that Amy, Anna, and Gunnar are just doing a fantastic job here on site. I hear only positive comments about them.
I second that motion.
And Amy actually planned pizza with the police for the residents last week, and I think it was highly successful. So thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
It really worked. It was a success. We also have Nicole working with us with trying to get the lighting along Millport Avenue as well on the park side, and seeing if they can also put lining in the parking in that area as well. So that would substantially help us as well when the tenants have the second vehicle, so they could park over there.
And the wall packs
Yes.
on the buildings. We've reached out to Eversource to check out to see what there's for initiatives with adding some additional light, because that was another feedback that we got.
Mhm.
Was there some dark spots towards the entranceways of some of the buildings? So we're working to reach out to those people to see.
Yeah,
what initiatives are.
behind building 59, it's pitch black at night.
Mhm.
I know Amy walked the property and was able to identify where the lighting was needed.
Yes.
So I guess that's it for management reports. Does the management have anything else to report on?
No, I think
Oh,
we're good.
yes, we do. We will be having a new maintenance tech coming on board on
Oh, yeah,
Monday,
yeah.
August 8th. We'll have a new guy on board with us, which I'm so happy. This way I'll
That's
have
great.
someone else to be able to get some things done here, whatever is
Yeah,
missing and lacking.
Thank you for that, Amy. I keep forgetting to tell everybody that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Giovanni Rojas is his name, and he's starting on Monday.
Great.
Yes. Okay.
Anna, you have something to say? All right, with that said, I guess there's no, Westmount doesn't have anything else to report on?
No,
I
I
just
have a
want
question.
Peggy.
Bernie, I have a question.
Yeah, go right
How
ahead.
many stoves are needing to be moved to Canaan Parish?
Okay, so we have 2 stoves and 2 refrigerators.
111. Yes,
In 111, yes.
So 2 stoves and 2 refrigerators?
Yeah, that's what I have in 111 right now.
Okay, and so when do you think you need to move these?
We're trying to remove them as soon as possible before the 15th.
Before the 15th? Okay, I'll talk to Canaan Parish. I know they were just getting stuff out of the storage room that they weren't able to get to before for the construction. So to see if they can set aside some space over there for it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay.
Is Scott back?
no, I guess he's not.
I'm still listening in. So
Oh, you there, Scott?
I'm still listening in, but you guys should keep going without me because it's, again, I get in and out on some coverage.
Yeah,
So
you're
probably time to
breaking
go
up.
to executive session.
Yeah.
We don't hear you. You're muted. Scott?
I think he fell off. He said, I think I heard him say, yes, you should go to executive session now.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of items before we go into executive session that I want to address. First of all, there was some mention about problems with some of the newly installed water heaters. And that was pressure has caused water leaking into the drain pans.
Hmm.
Gunnar did an inspection and it didn't happen to every single unit. It couldn't be figured out. First, there was a thought that it was Aquarian that had a higher pressure than necessary. No one can figure it out. Niall and I had a conference call with Nick of Rick's Plumbing and Jay Sullivan. And they had some thoughts on something that may work by reducing the pressure. My concern was what would reduce the water pressure. So rather than doing a project on all of the units, I thought it'd be great to try it out and see how it works. Well, I became the guinea pig. They tried out my unit. by putting in an expansion tank under the crawl space. And so far, the last couple of days, it's working well. We're trying it out for a few days. And that being said, if that works in my unit, it should work in the others as well. And that will solve the problem. So anyone that has water that's leaked in from the water heaters, that will be resolved.
And
Yeah.
sorry, Bernie, just a quick question on that. So is there any sort of regularity that we need to know as management that we're going to have to visit those once, twice quarterly in terms of purging the expansion tanks, or does it self-drain somehow?
No, it won't be necessary because it's a thermal operated system, and that will regulate the pressure. Now, it doesn't involve every unit. We don't know if that problem may occur in the future with some of the units, but Gunner has a handle on which units are involved.
Okay.
Perfect.
So that's about the water heaters. Anything else? I know David had some proposals that he wanted to discuss.
Are those executive session matters?
How do you feel about, should it be executive session? I guess so.
Yeah.
So we're gonna vote to go into executive session. May I have a motion? Secondly, motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're now in executive session. Anyone else that's not part of the board, please leave the meeting.
Say
Thank
good night.
you.
Thank
Good night.
you, Bernie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, bye.
Thank you.
Great. We're now in executive session.
So, hey, guys, I'm gonna, is it okay if I drop off now too?
Sure.
Sure, enjoy yourself.
All right, thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
boss.
Bye.
And Bernie, remember to stop the recording.
Yes, of course. Michael, you have to do that
Mike.
because somehow you became host. It's on the bottom of the screen where it says record, click on it and stop recording.
Let's see.
Do we drop off too?
If you wish, you don't, unless you have something to say.
No, the only just sort of comment that I wanted to make was I know that people are hot to trot on the driveway and parking